Good morning, everyone. This is Jolynn from WonHeart TV, and I've got a special guest this morning, and we're going to talk about COVID and how that just might be affecting, or how it might be co-created with the environment. And I'm really excited about this because the environment does have a lot to do with our health, and it's been falling, wouldn't you say, Amanda? Welcome, Amanda Davis.
Hi,
Mandy.
how are
Hi.
you? Man, that is a big subject. I'm going, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah. You've been in outdoors for most of your life, and specifically it sounds like the ocean, correct?
Yeah, I have spent a good portion of my life outdoors. I work as a naturalist and guide, and I've been an ocean activist for decades. I was working with Sea Shepherd and Direct Action for a while. And so, yeah, I am absolutely in love with the ocean. I've spent a lot of time on it, lived on it, taught on it. It is my love.
Wow. So if it's been your love, I would suspect for most of your life,
Mhm.
have you seen some changes in the last decades,
Oh my
coastally?
God. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really, really depends. We saw we saw even within a couple year period of time in about, 10 years, 15 years ago, some pretty radical changes in Antarctica. And because I've worked on the water here on the Morro Bay National Estuary, which is, by the way, extraordinary, I've seen some significant changes. There have been a couple of changes that have been positive ones because human beings have gotten their expression proverbial shit together. They've closed down a very destructive power plant that was taking water out of the estuary. They have taken care of some upstream issues with the ranchers and with the farmers. And so locally, we actually have a very good news situation that the estuary, some of the issues with the estuary, it's actually getting better and it's very healthy. The eelgrass is coming back, etc. But that is not in general. We have worked really hard locally. And the whole concept of thinking globally and acting locally, that has really manifested in some great ways around here. But globally, we are in a ton of trouble.
Yes. Boy, do I know that. You turned me on to a Dr. Zach Bush.
Yeah, he's
And
great.
oh my gosh, he's just been blowing my mind. He says a lot of the environment has really incurred so much damage through the farming industry
Yep.
and running down the Mississippi and out into the ocean. And it's so toxic at the mouth of that. Is that true? Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, bottom line is most delta areas and whether or not it's a creek, it's a river, et cetera, because if it's going through any populated area at all, those areas are highly polluted because of the drugs that are going in from the municipal sewer systems, because of some of the agribusiness effluent. It's just incredibly toxic. Some of the pesticides they're using, and some of the what do enhancing soil. What do you call that? I was just working with it. I was potting plants this morning.
The
The
organic soil?
well, some of the amendments that people add, and they're not necessarily organic, and those basically will go downstream into the rivers, and there's some, yeah, there's an awful lot of pollutants going into our water at this point in time. And what's very sad is this particular administration has endeavored to cut back on the Clean Water Act and to cut back on some of the protections that we have for our air and for our water. Big no no. And most people don't realize how destructive this particular administration has been. There is a laundry list of things that we have gone backwards by decades from an environmental standpoint and all the protections that we fought so hard for. But yeah, the soil, like Zach said, is, the health of the soil is huge in our well-being and
Huge.
the well-being of the earth.
Right. I have lived my entire life in Santa Maria, and there's farms everywhere,
Yeah.
broccoli and strawberries in particular. And I've gone on a walk in the morning, Mandy, and come home where the air is just silent. There's no real wind blowing, and I can
Hmm.
actually smell the sprays from that probably that evening while we were sleeping. And oh
Yep.
my gosh, it just literally takes my breath away. I run into my house, but I don't, I
Highly
don't know.
toxic. Those poor guys that are working with that stuff. I'm extremely chemical sensitive. I've lived on my boat pretty separated. I've been able to keep my chemicals out of my environment. And some of those pesticides, glyphosate is one of the huge ones. And I'm sure, you notice that Zach Bush talks about that a lot.
Yes.
And it is used just an incredible amount. Most people don't even realize that not only do they use it when they're growing the plants, they use it to process grains. So they actually soak the grain in glyphosate to make it easier to process. So
Wow.
when people are not eating, and even so, even if it's organic, we have wind, we have transference over to organic fields, and it's almost like you just can't get away with it. So yeah, the plants, the soils are just being saturated with this nasty stuff.
Yeah, yeah, uh, Monsanto and Bayer. It's an interesting story. I was re-listening to it this morning. The fact that Monsanto has gotten away with so much, having
Mhm.
taken, I guess, that poison they used in the Vietnam War and spraying down below to kill everything, including human beings, to see where the individuals were, sounds atrocious. And of course, when the war ended, they didn't know what to do with all these chemicals. So interestingly, they created Monsanto, feed the world mentality, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
with grain. Oh, it's horrible what they've done to the farmers. Absolutely
Yeah,
incredible.
and what they've done is they have and I'm probably not the person to talk to. There's some people that are real experts in this, but they have basically you know, they have taken over the entire industry and they've patented,
I
all
know.
of these seeds and everything, and they've literally made it impossible for the small organic farmers to do their jobs and to do it right. So yeah,
Right.
you know what? Back to Zach.
Yeah, please.
And I highly encourage everybody that's watching this to pull him up. He has a number of different talks. Here is what makes him so different because we can tie in the whole COVID thing, which really, quite honestly, God, it's so overemphasized at this point in time, in my estimation. What I really enjoy about him is, yeah, he talks about it, and he ties in everything, but he is very much of a big picture person. He is what I would consider to be, you know, a an intellectual renaissance man, and he's also an extraordinary human being. So he approaches all of this, and what's happening in the world, and all these viruses, and then all these quote unquote pandemics that we're having now, that we potentially can have in the future. And he looks at it from a very broad base, as opposed to narrowing down, which a lot of scientists, especially research scientists, do. I call it the mouse versus the hawk. He is
Right.
a hawk. He soars above. He has an incredible background and being an epidemiologist. He is an MD, even though people try, to tell folks that he's not. He has also traveled worldwide and studied permaculture and the soils and how nutrition, soil, health, and what's going on, and also air pollution, because there is definitely a nexus between most of the areas that have the highest COVID count are also highly populated, they're highly polluted, And these are areas that people don't have access to good organic foods, and they're probably eating just a shitload of glyphosate. And then they wonder why they're quote unquote gluten sensitive. Gluten
Right.
sensitivity and glyphosate sensitivity are exactly, they have exactly the same symptoms. I'm
Yeah, he
extremely,
mentioned that we literally could be looking at our population if we keep going this way,
uh,
just 70 years from now. Now, you and I know it goes by so fast, we won't be around, but I dearly think about the children
oh my
and
God.
grandchildren that are coming up with this leftover soil that I guess has been so sprayed and so turned over, he says, and it's creating also havoc with our wildfires here in California and
Hmm.
Australia. Have you
Yeah.
heard about? Can you talk a little bit more? Or do you
You
know
know,
any?
that's it. I've noticed that, and I really hesitate to talk about anything that I really don't have all of the information at my fingertips, and I haven't really studied it. I am very interested in nutrition and growing things and how it affects our systems. I'm a biologist, I'm a naturalist, and I really pay attention to how some of these issues affect the wildlife. It's not that I don't care about human beings, but unfortunately, humanity has a tendency to be anthropocentric. We
Yeah,
look at all issues as how they affect us. And very rarely does an individual look at how it affects the whole and how it affects the wildlife and how it's affecting the most intense extinction, the sixth extinction in the world right now. And things are going extinct at an alarmingly rapid rate. And
yeah,
it is absolutely due to our inability to be able to connect with the earth, to understand what our relationship is to it, and to understand that we are responsible for, and we should be responsive to. There is, and there is an attitude, and it has been pervasive for thousands of years, that we have dominion over the earth.
mm,
And the word dominion and domination go together. And the whole concept of dominating the earth mother, as it were, and then that's a whole other conversation we could go
sure,
into, but dominating the earth and literally raping her to get as much from her as we can has been the pervasive attitude. And we
right.
have we have to pull ourselves out of that. Otherwise, when we kill the oceans, when we
Mm-hmm.
kill the soil, when
Mm-hmm.
we do not provide, healthy foods and a healthy environment for ourselves, we're killing ourselves. And people need to get a clue.
You know, you brought up so much in that, and I really appreciate it. I mean, above all, the Native Americans and indigenous cultures everywhere have been promoting this save our water, save our air. And I wanted to ask you now, you do some incredible trips, I hear, where you take people out kayaking, but you do a little bit more. Can you talk about that and what you're doing? Because I think you're doing your part.
It's funny because, I haven't done, every once in a while, I do some direct action, but bottom line is I try to make my decisions on what I do on a daily basis and what I do as far as my job and how I interact in this world. I make those decisions based on what I call the language of the earth. Whether or not I am listening to the earth, I am speaking for the earth, and whether or not I am expanding that information out to other people. So I am incredibly fortunate, and that's the reason why I'm an activist. I am incredibly fortunate to have a job where I'm able to do that, and I consider my job to be soft activism.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I mean. I've been on some great trips, with really good guides, and they give you really good information and they're fun, etc. And that's what these trips should be. But what I do with as a guide is I have an extra added dimension. I have a very, very clear intention to expand people's awareness of their connection to the environment. And I happen to be really lucky to live on one of the best ecological classrooms in the world, as far as I'm concerned. I've paddled all over the world, and Morro Bay National Estuary is literally the best ecological classroom. It's not too big, it's not too small. Lots of critters and creatures, incredible habitats that are there. We can talk about the eelgrass. And at the very beginning of each one of these trips, what I do is I point out the big picture, that we are on a living, breathing entity, that I explain to them why living, that, it's a nursery, that it's really important to the oceans, why breathing, because of the incoming tides, and it expands and it contracts. And what I try to do is give them a feel for the fact that it is living and breathing, and that everything there is connected, and that they are connected as well. So that's kind of my introduction. And as we go through the tour, I go back to that and I go, well, remember when we were talking about this? This is how it's connected. This is why it's so important. This is, how all of these creatures utilize this particular habitat. And we have fun and we shoot the pier, and and we get out on the sand spit and romp and stomp, and it's a great time. But I feel incredibly fortunate that I have the kind of job that I can actually very consciously get that information to people and hope the light goes on.
Right.
And I have seen on in a number of occasions that people just go, wow, I never thought of that. And hopefully that makes a difference, especially because people bring their kids. And, we have to pay attention. You mentioned in Native American spirituality and Native American consciousness, and how really that is the direction we should be going in. And to be able to teach the kids and understand that I am hopefully affecting the next 7 generations, and they will make better choices than our
Right.
previous generations and the generation that we are currently in.
Right. I think it's so important. Now, I've been really talking about how to come back from this moment of a
Right.
pause in our life right now to really take a look around ourselves and realize that running to work and getting that caffeine in your body and being stressed and being on the freeway to get, and the kids, it's well, coffee could be a good thing, but
Coffee.
but it's caffeine, I guess. And I love what you were saying, that if we could just teach children, teach them, reteach them that we're not at war with nature
Right.
because we're literally killing ourselves, but that we're living in it. Like it is the law of nature, the perfect plan, and somehow we've pulled ourselves out, as you said, and dominion and competition, which
Mhm.
is not the truth at all.
No, I mean, it goes down to really, I'm just going to go back to, what I do out there on the water, and
Yeah.
people, the whole concept of competition and conquering nature, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when I teach people how to paddle, I go, you can be the best paddler on earth from a technique standpoint. But if you don't learn, and I competed about 30 years on and off, if you don't learn that you are in a fluid environment, you move like it, you act like it, and you think that way. And that if you do not realize that you work with the water as opposed to against it, you do not try to conquer it, that is when you really become a good paddler. And that's one of the things I teach people while they're out there. So these little things, even though they're little things, they actually expand out on the same concept, that we do not have dominion over, that we do not try to conquer, we work with, we consider the environment that we're in, and we adjust our actions accordingly.
Right.
So we can all do that to a degree on a daily basis. And if we don't, I call myself an optimistic pessimist, because unfortunately I've seen so much. And you talked about the pause, and that pause, we were actually, COVID actually gave us a gift. And unfortunately, I'm already seeing the fact that we did not take advantage generally of that gift. And that gift was everything slowed down. We actually saw, water quality, air
Oh,
quality,
yeah.
the quality of people's interactions with their family. Now, I miss my hugs, and I'm kind of a social loner. I miss my hugs and my friends, and being able to do that, and dancing to live music and all that good stuff. But the upside is that we were able to see what a small pause in our human activity and our effect on the environment, what an incredible effect that it had. Because I went out on the estuary about 3 months into, let me see, it was March, April, May. Yeah, it had to have been in May, and we hadn't opened up yet. I still wasn't working, and I went out paddling. And I went out to the sand spit and out to some of the tidal mud flats, and I saw an incredible difference. The eelgrass has been coming back. The eelgrass just took off in areas that there was normally human traffic. The amount of marine invertebrates in the sand and the mud in the areas that were normally trampled was just mind blowing. And just tiny little things. I mean, if you could just open your eyes and look, we really, really should have been able to see that, yeah, if we just take a pause, if we take a look at our actions and how they affect the earth, we can consciously make a change. That was a conscious change that we made. We all decided to stay in, and it may have been made out of fear. It may have been made out of, it may have been prompted by misinformation or really good information. I'm not saying one way or the other, but people made that conscious choice. So if they took that and they expanded that whole concept of making a conscious choice to change the earth, we could do it in a really short period of time. But unfortunately, I have not seen people step up to that call. That I've not seen a vast majority of us realize what that gift was and act on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You know, here at WonHeart, you prompted me to push my tag I had, start a change reaction.
Yeah.
And you asked me what that was all about, why I did that. And it's coming back. I'm glad you kind of made that little push on me, because I've always wanted with WonHeart to present a place where people could come and see yourself
Mhm.
and many others I know in the area that I've been interviewing, specifically women, and grab something and begin to wake up, because this was a pause to do that,
Right.
to find your place of how to be used in a loving and compassionate way. And that would be much more needed than, I'm on Facebook like you have been, and people shame each other for
Yeah.
opinions and this and that. And I'm getting to the point like you, waste of time, waste of time.
Hmm.
Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I think you brought up some good things about taking people out, as you said, in kayaks or hikes, whatever you're doing, and giving the whole world picture, and then coming back and how we're in it. Is that how I understand you?
Oh yeah, and it comes right down to the really simple, my little tagline for my language of the earth business was well, part of it was, was walk your talk, for crying out loud. There are so
Yeah.
many talking heads out there. There are so many people, and this is one of the things that bugs me about Facebook. I love it dearly because I learn a lot of great information. I stay in contact with my friends, but everybody's got an opinion, and everybody has an opinion based on their favorite quote unquote expert. And those opinions turn that what I've watched is those opinions turn into an incredible amount of divisiveness.
Yeah.
And that has been, and I have watched that divisiveness was pretty extreme before COVID with everybody's political views with the
Sure.
administration. There was just incredible you know, basically you're one side or the other. There wasn't a whole lot in between. When COVID happened, I was hoping that people would actually mellow out, that they would come together and become one. But what has ended up happening is COVID has actually made people, it has given people one more reason to be divisive, as opposed to coming together and realizing we are in community, that we are doing this. It has saddened me incredibly, to where I've gotten to the point now where I've done my research. I always look at new things. I'm always willing to say, yeah, I was wrong. I'll change my mind, etc. But anytime I see somebody posting something about COVID, I generally just scroll past it, because what it ends up being, very unfortunately, is mean spirited and divisive. And that is not what we should be doing as
Not at
humanity
all.
right
Not
now.
at all. Not at all. We need to come together and help our beloved planet.
Yes,
She's been
absolutely.
crying out for so long. Before we end, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I have a saying that I've been using from Maya Angelou for some time. When you were talking about people and not doing it, and she said, she said, when you know better, you do better. And I've always added, but if you don't know better, how can you do better? So, kind of to end this whole lovely topic about our environment and how important it is to see it from a perspective like the hawk,
Hmm.
the hawk. What can you give as something for the folks here on Facebook and beyond, an idea of how they could participate, become participants in the healing environmentally, if possible.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and actually, that is probably my primary intention. Is that, like I said, you need to learn to walk your talk. And lots of people have very strong opinions about things. And there are a lot of environmentalists that, have great concepts and they have great belief systems. But what is surprising is it's very few of them actually have a really good connection to the earth. Get out there on the earth and really experience it. In order for you to really be able to make a difference, a positive difference in the environment, you actually have to have what I call a kinesthetic awareness. You can
Mm,
have an awareness up here, you can have an awareness in here, but a kinesthetic awareness, it involves kinesthetic. You get out in it,
like
you
touching it.
allow,
Right,
touch it, feel it. The
right.
earth will teach you. She has a language, and you have to open up your ears, you have to open up your heart, you have to get out on her and allow her to teach what she can teach you. And then you can make a difference.
Right. It's kind of reconnecting, and I always say remembering who you are.
Absolutely.
People say it's school. Well, I sometimes think it's no, we're here to remember who we are.
You
And
absolutely are.
and that, yeah, I'm out walking on the beach like you. I'm in my I'm doing my interview from my little humble abode, leaving tomorrow after 3 weeks being here at the beach, and you're
Yeah.
in your little space there,
Little tiny home.
a little tiny home on Morro Bay. And do you have any upcoming events, or I'm going to put your information at the bottom how they can reach you, but do you have anything that you'd like to share that you're doing? Kayak
Right
trips?
now I am jamming because I didn't work for a long time. We are very, very busy at Central Coast Outdoors, doing the hiking, biking, and kayaking trips. That is my focus for the
Okay.
summer. And so I have several projects that I am putting off until winter, a book project, Language of the Earth, and
Oh,
starting some workshops. But that's, I kind of have a tendency, boy, when the sun is shining, make hay. So yeah, I do have a couple of projects that are on the back burner until winter time.
well, again, they can catch you. Where was that? They can get
I
a hold of
work
you.
I work for a local company called Central Coast Outdoors.
Okay. And that's in the Morro Bay area?
It is. They are based out of Los Osos. We do the kayak trips in Morro Bay National Estuary, and our bike and hike trips are all over the place.
Fabulous. I love it. And you just put a poem you wrote, I believe. Shades of Gray. Was that by you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, I've been
uh,
writing for a while. I'm
I'm going to
involved.
repost that if you don't mind. Shades of Gray.
I
I
thought it was
really enjoy.
more than appropriate for the times that everybody is looking at everything black and white, and that's what's causing the divisiveness. The reality is the beauty of our world is all shades of gray.
It truly is. It truly is. Well, Mandy, thank you for this. Wow, really, really, really wonderful talk. Our environment is important to us all.
Mhm.
And this is a time, as I've been saying throughout the pause, to take note of where we are in the scheme of all of living on the earth. Um,
Absolutely.
and I look forward to hanging out with you when you have a splice I don't know if you're headed up north to do a little fun hiking, but hopefully you do. It's a beautiful day.
I am. I'm going to go for a hike later on today, maybe North Cuesta or something. We have so many great hikes around here. We're really blessed.
We are, we are. And the sun is out and it's shining. So thank you again for coming on. And everyone, if you're interested in knowing more about Mandy, please, I will put all the information below. All the videos are on oneheartinfo.org, where you can check out all my interviewees, as well as One Heart TV. Go out in the world, I say, and start a change reaction. Be the
Yes,
change. Be the change, right?
absolutely. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, y'all. Peace, love to you all. This is Jolene. I'm out, and I'll talk to you soon or see you soon. Bye bye.